So last time what I was doing was behavioral explanation. I'll just see. Okay, I had just started with it. So we are doing impulse control disorders. I was doing behavioral explanation, and what I'll do is I will continue. Before that, I'll just revise what we had seen last time. Okay, first we've seen something about Skinner's operant conditioning theory. His theory is very simple. Like we had seen, whatever behaviors we are rewarded for, we tend to repeat those behaviors. Whatever behaviors we are not rewarded for and that we are punished for, we don't repeat those behaviors. And then we took a reference again of the Olds and Milner study, which we've already seen in the biological explanation. In that also we see that the rats were being rewarded. Whenever they were pressing the liver too many times, they were getting a dopamine rush in their brain. So they were being rewarded repeatedly, and that is why they were encouraged to repeat that behavior of liver pressing. So that is the explanation. According to Skinner, rewarding was leading them to repeat that behavior. In human beings, if we have to understand this, then in humans, like if we take gambling for an example, when they place a bet, the win which comes. So if I place a bet and I win that draw in which I have placed the bet, that win is reinforcing or it is rewarding. It encourages me to repeat the behavior. In fact, what is found is what they call a near win or a near miss. That is also reinforcing enough. Even if I don't win the bet, but I was close to winning it. Say someone's playing cards and they almost had the sequence that was required for winning. They were just one card short of it. So it's a near miss. That is also rewarding. That also encourages repetition of behavior. So it does not have to be a definite win. Even if we are close to the win, that's enough. Okay. Now we will continue and understand more closely about this explanation. What they are saying is, no doubt like this we can understand why people are repeating their behaviors. But then what comes to mind is, gamblers also lose many times. They don't always win. So losing should be like a punishment. Then when they are losing, that punishment should deter them from repeating their behavior. So that's what they're telling us here. It's difficult to explain why the losses don't kind of discourage people from repeating the behavior. Like simple logic, we'll say when they are losing their money, it's a punishment, so they should stop gambling. Then why are they not stopping? So that also Skinner has explained. When he was questioned about this, he gave an explanation. He said, again he explained by the ways of experiments. He used to show through his experiments. So again he took up experiments with rats. And what he showed was that one way in which we can reinforce rats is which we saw earlier. Every time they press a lever, we can reinforce. Means every single time the rat presses the switch or lever, he gets an electric shock to his brain. That is known as continuous reinforcement. So continuous just means literally every single time the behavior is shown. Every time the lever pressing behavior is there without fail. For every lever press, in response to every single press, there is a shock to the brain. That is known as continuous reinforcement. Now this does not help us understand why if there is a loss in between, say the rat does not get a shock in between, then why should he repeat the behavior? So that is explained in the next part. Next, what Skinner showed was, sometimes even what we call partial reinforcement schedules can be helpful. Okay, from the name only we can understand partial means not every single time. Or we can say sometimes. If we reinforce somebody sometimes, Skinner showed even that is enough to repeat behavior. Say you must be remembering when you were young and say your parents used to look after your studies like all the time. They used to keep on seeing whether you're studying or not. Now you're a little older, so maybe they don't see every time. So when you were younger and your parents used to see that you're studying, at the end of every day that you've been studying, they must not be encouraging you like, wow, today you studied well. But sometimes, once in a way, they used to do that. So say sometimes in a week or sometimes in a month, they used to encourage you. That we'll call partial reinforcement. Every time they did not give you praise or compliments, but sometimes. Now what Skinner showed it was with the help of rats, like we saw. So this schedule also he showed with rats. What he used to do sometimes, when the rats used to press the lever, he used to reward them, not every time. Like one example of this could be, Say the rat presses a lever 100 times in a day. Now we are not doing continuous reinforcement, we are doing partial. So after 10 times that the lever, we deliver a shock to him. Then the next set of 10, that means he's completed 10 more presses, 20 in total, we give another shock. So at intervals of 10 lever presses, we keep on giving shock instead of giving after every single press. So they found that even this is successful. The win does not have to come every time. Skinner showed that even if the win comes sometimes, once in a way, then also it can encourage behavior. In fact, he showed that when we come down to partial reinforcement, there are many ways in which we can do partial reinforcement. That's why he called it a schedule. Schedule is like a timetable. Just now I give one example. How we can do a partial reinforcement is every 10 presses of the lever, we are reinforcing. Instead of that, some other researcher might do every 20 presses of the lever, I will reinforce. So we can count the number of times the behavior is being shown and we can reinforce. In fact, someone might do like first time after 10 presses he delivers the shock, then again after 10, but then again after 7 more presses he gives a shock. Then after 3 presses he gives a shock, means there's no predicting. It won't come every time, that we are sure. But after how many times it will come, it's not predictable. Such a schedule is known as variable schedule. So again, I'll just explain something for clarity. Just explaining something we don't need to include in the paper, just for better understanding. What we are talking about is partial reinforcement. And simple meaning I have given, we are not reinforcing or rewarding every instance of the behavior, just some instances. This can be done in 2 ways. We can say we can follow 2 schedules or timetables of doing such reinforcement. One is fixed and one is variable. Fixed means I set a number, I fix a number. So this is the example I had given earlier. After every 10 lever presses, I will keep on rewarding the rat. So every time is going to be 10. I'm going to make sure it's 10, then only I will reward. And variable means there is no fixed number. So sometimes the rat might get rewarded after 10 times he pressed the lever, sometimes after 2 times, sometimes after 20 times. There's no predicting when the reinforcement will come. So when it comes to partial reinforcement, it can be done in 2 ways. Now let's come back to the text. Here they are saying the variable ratio, which I explained second, that is found to be the most successful. Means if we want, this line is particularly important, this one, the schedule till the end. What they're saying is if we want a behavior to be repeated very frequently, we should follow a variable ratio schedule. Suppose let's take another example first, then we'll come back to this. You want a child to study very sincerely. What is found is instead of appreciating him every time that he studies every day, you keep up a variable schedule. So you decide in your mind, I will do it sometimes, not always, and there's no predicting when I'll do it. So sometimes 2 days you see him studying sincerely, you appreciate him, sometimes after 10 days. This is found to be even more effective than rewarding the child every time with your praises. So now the same thing applies to the rat. If we reinforce the rat every time, continuous type, it is effective, but not as much as if we do it unpredictably, variably sometimes. So sometimes Skinner used to give the reward, that means the electric shock to the rat, every 5th time that he pressed the lever. Sometimes he used to give it after only 3 presses were there. Sometimes 8 or 9. So sometimes we are seeing the rat has to wait for very long before he can get the dopamine rush. Sometimes he just has to wait very little bit. Sometimes fairly long he has to wait. There is no predicting. Like, think from the rat's point of view. The rat does not know when he will get pleasure. From this only we can understand why it is more rewarding than continuously reinforcing. Like, keep yourself in some position. The best example of this is social media. Okay, so say you have put a post on Facebook. Okay, so you just posted a photo of yours on Facebook or Instagram, whichever platform you use, you posted. Now what you must have noted is sometimes you get likes immediately. So you've just posted and within seconds your friends have started liking your photo. Sometimes it takes them time. Maybe they're busy or something. So after some time, the likes come. So here what is happening, you are not sure when your friends are going to like the photo, just immediately or after some time. And there's no predicting. Like we saw, there's just no predicting. It is variable. And you don't know when how many likes will come. Like it might be in the first few seconds, just 1-2 people are liking. But by the next hour is completed, 100 people have liked it. Or in some cases, it might be first only people have given lots of 100, 200 likes have come in the beginning. And then after that, it slows down. Then nobody is liking. So what you must have noticed is, if you engage in lot of this type of social media behavior, you tend to check your phone almost continuously when you're not sure when the likes are going to come. That unpredictability makes it very addictive. It makes you feel like keeping on checking the phone again and again. For that reason, the unpredictability itself is the reason why you're checking. You feel it might have come now. Like if you keep the phone down for 2 seconds, you feel in these 2 seconds somebody must have liked, so let me see again. Then again you think of what if someone likes it just now? So it keeps you totally stuck with the phone because you don't know when the likes will come. Same thing was happening with the rats. They don't know when the shock will come. So it makes them go on pressing the lever because they feel, what if the next press is the one when the shock comes? Again it does not come, again they feel, but the next press might be the one when the shock comes. The variability factor is particularly addictive. That Skinner showed. Now coming back to gambling from this. Now we had the question in our mind, when gamblers lose, then why do they keep on gambling? This answers the question. Because gambling is set up only in such a way, the casino owners are very smart, or who make these betting applications, they're very smart. They give rewards like this. So first they give it early to hook the person. So when you go in a casino or somewhere and you're a newbie over there, very high chances you will win a reward because they want you to first of all like the place and believe that you can win. They want to win your trust. So initially they give you a little chance of winning. After that, they will employ this variable ratio schedule. You will win sometimes. So say you're using a slot machine or something, or a betting app. Sometimes they will make you win, but again it will be in the variable format. Sometimes the win will come very fast after 2-3 times that you're playing. Sometimes it will come after a month that you're playing. Again, it might come a week after you're playing. So every time you log into that app or you go to that slot machine or to play those cards, wherever you're going for gambling, you feel this might be the turn that I'll win because it's always been unpredictable. If instead of this, you know, every 10 days you're going to win, then that keeps you assured. Then you feel, why should I go every day? Let me go on the 10th day only. I'm going to win on that day. This does not give you assurance. So it makes you keep on coming back in the hopes that this is going to be that one chance when I'm going to win. So this is what Skinner showed, that even if the gambler does not win every time, he loses sometimes. That losing does not discourage him because he feels that the next chance might be the one which I win. Now they have given in the textbook some diagrams, some graph and all that we don't have to see. In that they've given different types of schedules of reinforcement, the partial types. Broadly I have explained, fixed and variable. If you all are interested for your reading, you can see the diagram, but from paper point of view, we don't even have to discuss this. Okay, now coming further, mainly if we see out of all the impulse control issues, Skinner has focused on gambling. So though he did studies with rats, he was interested in generalizing to gambling issues in human beings. So he said that excess gambling can be explained in this way, just like I explained right now. Anticipation of a win. Anticipation just means expectation. So anticipation of a win learned through previous experience can be rewarding in itself. Like we just saw that variable schedule which we use, that is creating the anticipation in the person because previously he's won sometimes. So he has that thing in his mind, that memory is there that you never know when the win comes. Like once it came that day and then it came immediately, then it took some time. He has memories of these things. So that is creating, that memory is creating an anticipation, which is why he's going on gambling, according to Skinner. Not only is this variable ratio schedule very addictive, like I said, it makes you keep on checking the screen or keeps you going back to the casino. On top of that, it is very resistant to extinction. Means it's very difficult to get rid of. the anticipation is so strong in the person's mind, like it's etched such a memory in that person's mind, you will not be able to take it off from his head. Like if you see, sometimes you'll see these gamblers who are there. You really force them in therapy once they quit gambling because so much pressure is when they realize that it's causing them damage, they give up. But again, they come back to it after some time. So these impulse control therapies, which are there for gambling and all, we have seen relapse. Relapse factor is very high, going back into that behavior. This is the reason, because that variable schedule, what it makes the person believe is, okay, I've not been gambling for 2 years. Supposing I've undergone therapy for 2 years, I stopped gambling. So 2 years I've not gambled. But what if I go back just now to the casino? Maybe I'll win this time when I go. Means it makes him believe that it's unpredictable, no, when we'll win. So even if I go now, I might win. The win can come after 2 years also. The fact that the win can come anytime in the gambler's mind, that makes it so strong and so addictive that you just can't remove that thought from his mind because he's had that experience. So it becomes very difficult to control this behavior. So this is all they have given about behavioral explanation. Here Skinner's name is very important from paper point of view. We should mention, and we should write the name operant conditioning theory. Also, all the schedules we've seen, they've given the names in bold. So we should remember the names properly. Now coming first to the textbook evaluation. First they've given a general evaluation. First they've spoken about a weakness. They are saying this theory is entirely focused on what we call positive reinforcement. And that is why it fails to acknowledge what we call negative reinforcement. Here again I'll explain something which we don't need to explain in the paper, but for our knowledge it's going to be good. There are two concepts in Skinner's operant conditioning. One is reinforcement and one is punishment. Reinforcement, in simple words, it just means rewarding somebody. Or we can say giving somebody what they like. Like what is rewarding to most people is someone praising them. People like compliments. And materialistically, people like to get money or new objects or something. So these things tend to be rewarding. Then of course, person to person, it depends what a person finds rewarding. Punishment means giving something to people that they don't like. Like most people don't like being beaten up by somebody, it's painful. People don't like being insulted by somebody or slapped by somebody. So all those are counted as punishments. Now reinforcement is of two types according to Skinner. One is what we call positive. One is what we call negative. Negative reinforcement is not punishment because punishment is a different concept like we saw. So that is the most important thing. So in the textbook, when we see negative reinforcement, they are not talking about punishment. So let's understand what is negative reinforcement. First, if we talk about positive reinforcement, it is giving somebody something that they like. So what we were saying in the beginning, like someone gives me praise, someone gives me attention or gives me something materialistic. I like that. Negative reinforcement means taking away something that I don't like. So indirectly, it feels rewarding. Like in your childhood, you must be remembering every time your parents did not give you something for studying. Like once in a way, they might have given you a chocolate. You're a good girl, you study. So they gave you a chocolate or they gave you something expensive. But that's not always. Every time they don't give you. Sometimes what they must have done is, okay, you've studied really well today. So I gave you some task to do. Don't do it. You don't like it, don't. Like they told you to do some household chores. So say your mother told you that today after studying, you just have to clean up the kitchen for me. Now that she's seeing you're studying very sincerely, as a reward, she told you don't clean the kitchen today, I'll do it. So she took away something that you don't like to do. You don't like to clean, she said, okay, don't clean. That means she took away something that you didn't like, and indirectly she gave you that time which you like, you can spend it for yourself. So that is negative reinforcement, taking away something that a person doesn't like. That is also, it also proves to be rewarding. So let's come back to this explanation. Okay, here what they're saying is in this explanation, like we saw, we're just talking about positive reinforcement. The rats are being given electric shock so that dopamine is released in their brain and they feel happy. We are not talking about negative reinforcement. Now they are saying there is a negative reinforcement element in impulse control disorders. First, let's understand what is that. We had seen this thing in the beginning. When people have impulse control issues, there's a tension that builds up in them till they perform that behavior. They keep on feeling very restless and tense. Like we've seen the example of kleptomania. They go in the shop and they feel, I want to pick up this comb. That thought keeps on creating restless and they feel very tense. I want to pick up, they can't ignore it. And then till they pick up that comb and hide it in their bag, that tension remains. Once they put the comb in their bag, then the tension is relieved. So here we can see how negative reinforcement comes in. Tension, nobody likes. Nobody likes to be stressed and tense. Like nobody will like in their head that thought is going on, pick up something and they're feeling stressed because of that. So the moment they pick it up, the thought stops because now it's not needed. Now you've already picked up the thing. So you feel a sense of relief. Now my mind, that thought and that emotion has just shut down. That relief is negative in reinforcement because like I said, negative reinforcement is taking away something that we don't like. The tension is taken away when I pick up the comb. So I feel rewarded indirectly. I get a negative reinforcement because of that. Now this aspect has not been discussed in Skinner's explanation for impulse control. As such, he has spoken about negative reinforcement, but not in the context of impulse control disorders. So here we'll just mark that line. Alleviation of a negative feeling is negatively reinforcing. Alleviation means getting rid of. So you get rid of negative tension, stress, or that obsession which is created. That is negatively reinforcing to the person. And related to this, there is a researcher, if you all can remember the name, Blazinski. Otherwise, you all can just say what he has said. That people who are gambling, if we study them, this is what they find. That their gambling is driven by the need to avoid that obnoxious psychological states or dysphoria mood. Ahead we will be seeing the next explanation, cognitive one, that will explain this more. Right now what we understand is noxious means something that is toxic. In here we can say it's hurtful to the person. Like it keeps creating tension in him. So that noxious physiological state which he is having, meaning tension in simple words. When you're tensed, if you notice your body, how it is, your heart is beating fast, you're breathing very rapidly, your throat is going dry at that time, that state is in the body is very uncomfortable. So when these people are gambling, before they place their bet or before they log into that application, whatever they are doing, this is the state that they are in. Their full body is very stressed out and tensed. And the mood, that is the mind, is dysphoric. Dysphoric meaning depressed mood. So they're feeling very upset. But of course, the moment they place the bet or they open that application or whatever gambling form they are doing, both the things become okay. The physiological arousal also goes away and the dysphoric mood also becomes normal. In fact, it might become cheerful also. So that is negatively reinforcing, getting rid of this state of the body and mind. So this is important to understand. So here what we are saying is a weakness, that by focusing only on positive reinforcement, we have ignored this very essential factor. So because of this, the theory has become reductionist. In terms of issues and debates, we'll say it's oversimplified. It's just looking at one aspect, not the other one. But it's a good theory also. There's strengths in it. So if we see one strength, they're telling us it focuses on nurture. Nurture, we have seen last year also, nature versus nurture. Nurture side of it is learning, which takes place. Gradually we learn many things. So in this theory, what we are saying is a gambler has gradually learned to gamble by getting those wins. Either he's got it every time or over time. Like we saw, variably he got wins. So say for 1 month, 2 months he was gambling. He went on winning in between periods, like we saw variably, and that nurturance or that learning has caused him to become an addicted gambler. So here we are giving importance to nurture. Otherwise we see many explanations just give importance to nature. When we talk about brain chemicals, genes and all, we only look at the nature aspect. So this is giving us a fresh perspective that people can learn it also, even if they don't have the genes. So here what we are seeing is, earlier we saw the biological explanations. That is not enough. In fact, we had seen they are reductionist by nature. Like we had said, okay, dopamine is not working properly, but there are other factors also that we need to look into. So this is one of those factors which was missing in those explanations. So it is adding to some of the earlier definitions which were there. Okay, then they have given about those D2 receptors. Again, we don't need to look at it. We can just mark the last line here. What they are saying is environmental learning experiences are either necessary with the genes. Say two people have the genes, like we were seeing, which are creating the D2 receptor issues. So two people are having those genes. One gets this type of learning. So one has a set of friends who takes him to the casino, and there he gets this type of variable reinforcement schedule. The other friend, even he has the genetic problem, but nobody ever takes him to the casino. His company is not like that, who go to gamble. Now, the gene by itself, we have seen, cannot explain why one develops gambling, the other does not develop. So maybe if we add this explanation also, Skinner's explanation, then we get the full picture. Okay, the gene is there. So the gene is there plus this reinforcement issue is there. Now we understand why some people with the genes develop the disorder, why not everybody. This is the missing part of the puzzle, which we have now fixed in. So that in combination with the previous explanation becomes holistic, and it explains why genetic vulnerability can contribute to the disorder. Okay, I think the issues and debates they have given later after cognitive explanation, but I want to look at it right now. So today I have sent the notes, I'm coming to that. Okay, so we come to behavioral explanation. This, as always, is the summary for the 6 marker. Now coming to application to everyday life. Okay, first issue they have given this one. Now application to everyday life, for this explanation it is very obvious. We are seeing that people are getting reinforced for doing impulsive behaviors, that's why they are doing it. That means either we should take away that reinforcement, stop rewarding them for the wrong type of behaviors, or we should give them better reinforcement, reward them for good behaviors rather than impulsive behaviors. So logically, this is what follows the explanation, and on these lines only we are going to see the application. Okay, one thing they're telling us is we can create awareness in people. What we call, we can prevent problems. Now that we have understood that by being rewarded, people keep on repeating impulsive behaviors, what we can do is let them know about this psychoeducation. Tell them this is how your behavior is getting maintained. So call gamblers, tell them because of the variable reinforcement schedule, your behavior is getting maintained. Once the person has knowledge of this, it will give him insight, and then he can take some measures. It can be the first step towards taking measures to control himself. Of course, willpower is also needed. Only awareness is not enough. But at least once he's aware, he'll think about doing something. So here what the person can do, once he learns that even a small win is rewarding, even the occasional win is rewarding, once he learns all these things, then he can, on his own level, he can stop going to casinos, he can avoid the company, his friends who take him there, he can uninstall those applications from his phone, or he can go and visit the therapist. If he feels he himself cannot manage any of this, he can go and visit the therapist. So one benefit we are getting is psychoeducation or creating awareness. Next is definitely for psychologists also, from their point of view, they get scope to do effective treatment for the person. From this explanation, they've understood why the problem is occurring. Now they can take measures to solve it also. So in the treatment section, we will see there is a therapy called CBT. As such, we've seen it many times, but specific for impulse control also it is there. So psychologists can use CBT because in CBT, the B component is there, behavioral therapy. And here we are talking about behavioral explanation. So what they do in the CBT therapy, we will see more closely. They change the behaviors of the person. Like one small example I can give, they do contingency management. In that, instead of reinforcing people for doing impulsive behavior, they will reinforce them for controlling the impulsive behavior. So every time that you don't gamble, I give you a reward instead of giving you a reward when you gamble. So say you don't gamble, then I give you some money reward or some encouragement like that. And every time you gamble, I give you a punishment to deter you from gambling. So I reverse the sequence. Normally what is happening when you're gambling, you're getting rewarded some money and all. And when you're not gambling, you're feeling punished because you're feeling you're not getting money. Now I'm reversing that. When you're not gambling, I'm rewarding you, and when you are gambling, I'm punishing you. So the expectation is just like you learned the wrong behavior, you will learn the right behavior. So that is what the psychologist can do. We will see that. For now, if we are raising this point in the exam, we just need to write this much, that CBT can be done to improve negative behavior. Then coming to the weaknesses. Though it has very good application, there are some problems also. One is the theoretical foundation is not very strong, or in simple words, we can say it is a reductionist explanation by itself. Like we saw, if we combine it with the genetic explanation, it is comprehensive. But by itself, it is reductionist. We know other factors can play a role also. Only variable reinforcement schedule is not the factor which is causing impulse control issues. We've already seen gene brain chemistry, so we can give that example. We can talk about dopamine D2 receptors, means in any style we can write this answer. So because it is reductionist, it might not help in fully treating a person. Like one aspect we'll be able to treat, we'll be able to change his environment, reinforce him differently. But that might not prove to be enough to get rid of his disorder. We need to give him medicines also. Because like we saw, if it is genes, dopamine issue plus reinforcement issue. So we are not doing anything about the D2 or the dopamine issue only by looking at this explanation. So it is not enough by itself to put to practice or application. Another thing is one might not generalize to every case of every person having gambling or any impulse control issue. Some people definitely they must have undergone what Skinner has said, like they have gone to casinos, they have had a variable reinforcement schedule. So in their case, we can understand their disorder and we can give them treatment. But what about other people who are having the disorder for other reasons? Like we've already seen, one is the genetic one. The other reasons can be people are facing peer pressure or social pressure to gamble. They don't really want to do it. Like themselves, they are not feeling reinforced, but their friends are pressurizing them. You have to only do this activity with us. Or they are learning it, say, by the modeling that is done by their family. The father is an addict or the mother is an addict, so they're picking it up from there. So in these cases, we will not understand why they have developed the disorder just by looking at this explanation, and we won't be able to treat it also. So that is application. Then coming to individual and situational explanation. This is one of those rare explanations in the textbook which is supporting the situation rather than the individual side. Because here we are not saying there's anything internal to the person that is causing him problem. We are saying his environment is causing the problem. This rewards which the person is getting, he's not giving it to himself. Like we saw, the game is designed in a way, in case of gambling, that sometimes the rewards come. So who has designed the game? That the gambling scenario, whoever set up, he has designed the game to be like that. So the control is outside the person, it's in the environment. In the same way, say there's someone who's having the fire setting issue, which we had seen, pyromania. So in this explanation, what we'll say is whenever he sets fires, he's been rewarded in some way for it. Like maybe someone has admired him for doing such behavior. So that person who's admiring him or who's supporting, encouraging him, or everybody is going in a panic and he's liking, like we saw, he likes the whole scenario, not only setting the fire. So that whole situation, that chaos which is getting created, that is reinforcing him. So always the reinforcement is coming from outside. So it is a situational explanation. Here it's best to give the gambling example because that is what has been discussed in detail. So here we can say the near misses or the wins which are coming. Those are rewarding. In fact, we saw the variable schedule is such that it is particularly rewarding and it is difficult to get rid of also. That means there's something in the environment which we can't even stop easily that is causing the problem. So definitely it is a situational explanation. What is good about situational explanations? Just like in individual explanation, we increase a person's responsibility. He should do something to improve his condition. Here we encourage society's responsibility. they should do something so that people in society don't develop the disorders. So that can also be very helpful. Like at a small level, what parents can do is, many parents have this habit whenever their child wants something, they give it to him immediately. So he never learns to control his impulses. Like what we say in common language, pampering or spoiling the child. Child wants a chocolate, just now they give it to him. He wants something expensive, just now they never teach him to wait. And here we are seeing that creates a problem. Person does not learn to control his impulses. So because of that, maybe now he feels like gambling, he does it. There's no stopping him. So what we can do at a small level is parents can learn to reinforce children for delaying gratification. Delaying gratification means for controlling the impulses. Gratification just means satisfaction. So most of us, by nature, we desire immediate satisfaction. Like if I want to eat a chocolate just now, I want to eat it just now. That is human nature. We don't know how to control ourselves naturally. But parents have to take up the responsibility that no, if you're getting a chocolate at the end of the week, that means at the end of the week, not today. So they should reward children this way. Give them reward after they have waited for some time, after they have held themselves back for some time. That way they will learn to wait for their turn, they will learn to wait to control the impulses, and they become less likely to develop such problems, which we are seeing. Another thing that can be done is, because we know it's a situational explanation, we can develop such treatments which can improve the situation of the person. Like one example we have seen before, we can add that only CBT, which we have seen application to everyday life. Here I have written reinforcement therapy. Instead of that, we can write CBT. Actually, both mean the same thing. The same example which I gave earlier. In CBT, what we'll do is we reverse the order. Normally, person is getting rewarded for doing impulsive behavior. Now we'll reward him for not doing the impulsive behavior. So that is known as reinforcement therapy or CBT. So that can be used in case the person has already developed the problem situationally. So in situation, now the therapist has to take charge. He has to reinforce the person in ways that he will stop doing those behaviors. So he learns that he can be the part of the situation to change the behavior. Coming to weaknesses, again, it's the opposite of what we see for individual explanation. So the strengths over there become the weaknesses over here. In individual explanation, what is good is we say the person can take own responsibility. He can understand what is inside him. Here we are doing the opposite. We are ignoring the individual factors which are contributing to the disorder. And there are many individual factors that can contribute. One is family history. That means genes. A lot of people develop these addictions and impulse issues genetically. We see number of people in the family have the same issue. So that indicates genes are passing on. Or we can give here the example of what we have seen, the dopamine issue in the biological explanation. That is also an internal factor that is causing the problem. So here the theory is being reductionist by ignoring such factors. Another thing is whenever we say anything is because of the situation, that discourages the person from changing his behavior. It demotivates him. The person just feels that if my behavior is to change, the situation has to change. I can't do anything about it. But there are things that a person can do to change his impulse control issues. Like we were seeing earlier, as simple as he can avoid betting, he can avoid going to casinos. That is the smallest measures he can take to get rid of his gambling problem. So there is something that is there in his control. But he might not do it because he is believing it's situationally caused, so the situation has to change for me to change. So in a way it becomes deterministic. Next is nature versus nurture. Again, this is one of those rare explanations in the book which is based on nurture. Nurture means learning. When it comes to situational explanation, situations can be immediate also. Like just now something happens, I do in response to that. Or situations can be long term. Like the reinforcement is not happening just once in the situation of the person. We've seen repeatedly it has been happening. That's why he's developed gambling issue. So that becomes nurture. When something keeps on happening repeatedly in the situation, such that we learn something from it or it teaches us something. So here how we have to justify is, we are focusing here on long-term environmental factors like repeated rewarding, repeated punishment, we are saying all this is playing a role in impulse control issues. Like again, we can give the example of gambling. The variable ratio schedule, which is very difficult to get rid of, that is happening over many months or years. The person has seen that in between he keeps getting rewards. So he's learned. He's learned that the reward can come anytime. It's not natural to him. Like genetically, he does not feel the reward will come anytime. By studying that pattern over years, he started believing it will happen. So it is a nurture explanation. Now, what is good about nurture explanation is, one, it helps to prevent problems. The same example we can give, which we had given for parents. They can teach their children to delay gratification. So here also the same thing, because over time they will have to do these things. Just once if my child delays his gratification and I reward him for that, that will not help him to learn that he should always delay his gratification. I have to keep on doing this such that it becomes a part of his personality, that he knows to control himself. So through a nurture method or through slow learning method, I can get him to learn to control impulsive behavior. So we can reward children for things like waiting for their turn. Many times we see even in the classroom, what children do is, if the teacher asks a question, all of them will start speaking together instead of raising their hand, because they're very excited to say that they know the answer. So teacher can punish those children who just, you all must have seen also, your teachers do that. All of you all start talking together, then she'll be, I will allow you all to talk again, who were talking just now. But who will raise their hand, she'll appreciate them and she'll give them the turn to speak. So teach children to wait for their turn. Teach them to follow directions, means instructions which are given. If they follow, mother has said to do something in the house, they clean and all, give them reward for that. Means even if they don't like something, they do it. That teaches them that everything what they like or what their impulses, they don't have to do that. They have to do other things also. And always reward them for completing tasks. Some people are also impulsive in the sense that they start something till they're excited about it, they do it and then they throw it away. Like children will start one activity, say they're solving a jigsaw puzzle, till it interests them, they do it, then they just leave it and go away. So what parents should do is, only if you complete the whole puzzle, we'll reward you. That will teach them to be patient, to wait. So that will help them. If they feel like gambling also, they'll be patient. They'll wait till that feeling goes away. Another good thing about nurture explanations is definitely again application. So this is a repetitive point. From a psychologist's point of view, because they know it happens through gradual learning by this explanation. So gradually they can help people unlearn those wrong behaviors and relearn the right behaviors. So like we saw earlier, reinforcement therapy or what we call CBT can be done. Reward people for the right behaviors and punish them for the wrong behaviors. Again, it will take time. It will happen slowly, but they will learn to reverse their tendencies. Problem of looking only at nurture factors is we ignore nature factors. That is the most obvious thing. We are being reductionist. In any disorder, we have seen right at the beginning, both type of factors play a role, nature and nurture. In the textbook also we were seeing just now, genes are also there. Like we saw, what if two people have the genes and only one is exposed to such reinforcement? We can think about it the other way also. What if two people keep going to the casinos and both are being reinforced for gambling and only one of them has the genes? So we can think in the reverse way. The only one who has the genes, he is more likely to develop the disorder than the one who doesn't have the genes for the problem. So the genes factor is also important, which we are ignoring here. So again, we can give example, genes influence how dopamine works in the brain. So possession of those genes plus the reinforcement which is coming, that is likely to create the problem, not just the reinforcement which is coming. One more problem with nurture is that it is deterministic. Even nature is deterministic, even nurture. Because in both we don't feel that it is in the person's hand to whether he's developing the disorder or not. Here we are feeling it's because of how he's being reinforced from the outside. So whenever something is deterministic and people feel the control is outside, they don't take measures to improve themselves. So again, the same example we saw earlier, they can take some small measures like avoiding such situations, but they won't do it because they feel that they have learned to do these things. They have been nurtured into doing these things. So now they can't come out of it. Next debate they have given is reductionism versus holism. Definitely it is reductionist because we are strictly focusing on one factor, positive reinforcement. Like we saw in the textbook, in fact, even reinforcement is of more types, negative one. But that we have not seen even that in this explanation. So it is highly reductionist, looking only at one type of reinforcement, and all the other possible factors, genes, other environmental factors, like any stress in the environment, immediate situation factors, those have not been addressed. So because we've done only one explanation before, that is the best example we can give, the dopamine issue. Even that contributes. So we are ignoring that. Strengths of reductionism is application becomes very easy because we are focusing only on one factor. So we have to change only one factor to get rid of the disorder. That is easier than changing too many factors. So in CBT, the researcher knows exactly that he has to change the reinforcement for the type of behaviors he has to do, and that will change the behavior of the person. So he can focus totally on the reinforcement which he has to do. Another good thing about reductionism is it lends to further research. Researchers know now what specific factors they should investigate more to understand the disorder better, because the specific factors have been pointed out. Like here we saw variable ratio schedule seems to be the main culprit or the main issue why people are developing gambling addiction. So taking this as an example, what researchers can see further is, like we saw, it's very resistant to extinction. It's very difficult to get rid of. So now they can focus, though it is very difficult, what possibilities are there? How to get rid of the effects of this schedule on a person. So whenever we see something is very difficult, has not been found till now, that just suggests that further research can be done into it. Further research ideas we get from there. Okay, coming to the weaknesses of reductionism, one is definitely reductionist explanations are unrealistic. This is a repetitive point which we saw before. If we just look at how reinforcement is playing a role, we will not understand disorders fully, nor will we be able to treat them fully. We need to consider other factors which are working in conjunction. So this is the same point. Even the fact that it is less generalizable also we saw earlier. So same point again. We can write here also that everybody is not developing it for this reason only. So there's not one reason only. In some cases, some people who are having gambling disorder, it can be for other reasons. In fact, like this explanation is telling us that even if a person loses, still he will continue to gamble because of the variable reinforcement. That anticipation is there, that the next bet can be the winning bet. But it's not always found. Like in real life, we see some people, they are deterred by their losses. When they lose a lot of money, say they've been winning for something, when they lose a lot of money, they do quit gambling. Like we say they come to their senses, that they are losing, their now potential is that they might go bankrupt or something. Some of them do stop. It's not like everybody keeps on continuing even after they lose. So definitely it's not generalizable to each and every case. And finally, last issue they have given is determinism versus free will. This is a deterministic explanation because like we saw in nurture also, we are saying the control of whether the person gambles and continues is on the outside. It's not in his control at all. The fact that he is being rewarded, in a way he's being conditioned or he's being trained to become addicted to that behavior. So the fact that he's being rewarded occasionally, the game has been set up in such a way that is causing him to be addicted. So that is determining his addiction. So they have been conditioned in a such way that they are unable to control their behavior. That's all the justification we have to give. Now, what is strengths of deterministic explanation? One is definitely it reduces the blame on the individual. Moment we say it's beyond the individual's control, we are saying that we shouldn't blame him. We should find ways to solve the problem instead, and then we don't stigmatize the person. So here we are saying it's because of rewards and reinforcement. The addiction is because of the wins and the near wins. So we won't blame the person, we'll blame that gambling is designed only to be in such a way that it spoils a person's mind. Like for example, if we see in a religious text also, there also they say the gambling game is only such that even the best of people, like if we see in our ethics, the best of people have submitted to gambling. Their worst side has come out because of gambling. So then we blame the nature of the game for spoiling people's mind rather than people themselves. So it reduces stigmatization. Another thing is that it becomes easy to control behavior when we say something is deterministic. Like we always see, it is difficult to get a person to change by his willpower. So if we consider free will factors, the person might not change because he has to put in too much effort. Here, the person himself does not have to put in the effort. The therapist has to put the effort to change him. So the therapist has to remove his opportunities to gamble. The therapist can suggest some simple measures, or the therapist himself can install some apps in the person's mobile which doesn't allow him to access gambling, remove those applications. The therapist can see to it the person doesn't go to the casinos. Or at the most simple level, what the therapist can do, like we saw, reinforce him for the behaviors which are right and don't reinforce him for which are wrong. So all these efforts, what to do, what not to do, the therapist has to see, not the person. So from the person's point of view, it becomes easy for him. Now coming to the weaknesses. One is when we don't blame the person, simultaneously we demotivate him also. Once the person knows that we are not holding him responsible for his condition, he might not work hard to change himself because of that. So this point is repetitive. We've seen it earlier also. Once people come to believe that because of the nature of gambling, for example, they are addicted to gambling, then what they are going to do is they are going to be, waiting. Like, let the therapist do something about it, or let them change the nature of the game, then I'll become okay. They won't see what they can do to become okay. As again and again we've been seeing the example that, just simple measures which they can take, they won't even take those because they believe the control is not in their hands. And of course, it is a reductionist explanation. There are many free will factors also that play a role in gambling. Like, for example, on one hand, we are saying that people are gambling because they have been conditioned to do so. But what about the fact that many people do gamble because they see it as a means of making easy money? Many times you all must have heard of people who say that they want to make money quick, or they want to get rich quick. And they feel this is the easiest way. They put in some money, they gamble, and they win money. So they don't actually want to work hard and gamble. So again, we can talk here also about generalizability. In every case, it's not true that the person is helpless to gamble or he's been trained to gamble. Sometimes people make a conscious choice that they want to gamble to win easy money. Or like we have been seeing in the case of pyromania. Some people are doing it for the pleasure. It's not like they've been reinforced or conditioned to set fires. They actually enjoy the scene. So for getting that pleasure, deliberately they are putting fires. So when we say it is deterministic, we are assuming everybody is doing it out of control. Not necessarily. Some people are doing it within their control. They're doing it purposely. Okay, so that is all for the issues and debates of behavioral explanation. In the textbook, they have linked both the explanations, so they've taken it together only. We'll come back to the textbook. Okay, today I'm starting with the cognitive explanation. It is there on page 292. Cognitive means now we are going to see, here we saw on the outside how the person is behaving and how the environment is causing him to learn some behaviors. Now we are going to see what happens inside the person, mentally or in his thoughts, when he engages in impulse control issues. Here again we have to understand some concepts, then we'll be able to understand better. So one is state-dependent memory. Memory, we all understand, is recalling something. State is, when we are talking about state here, we are talking about mental state, or how you're feeling at a given time. Now, all of you all must have noticed in your personal life, otherwise think about it just now. When you are sad, you tend to remember everything that has gone wrong in your life, even if it is not relevant right now. Supposing right now someone, say the teacher humiliated me or something in class. Now, when she does this, I feel very hurt. So I become very sad. And I'm sitting, now not only I'm thinking about this teacher insulted me, I start thinking that time also that teacher had also spoken that way, that day my friend also spoke that way. All that thing comes back to mind, which normally I don't think of. Right now I'm feeling sad, so all those hurtful things which different people, maybe they don't even exist in my life right now, everything I remember at that time. Same way when you're happy, you will notice that all happy memories start coming to you. So right now, say your parents give you a gift and you feel very grateful, they're so kind to you. And then you start remembering all the instances when they've been very kind to you, they've done something for you. So all these are known as state dependent memories. Right now, what is your mental state? You tend to remember everything according to that. Here we should try to remember this definition as it is from the textbook. When we are in some emotional state, like I gave the example angry, sad, happy, we tend to retrieve or recall, remember, pull back memories that are from the same state. They have said last time, but actually it is last times. We'll find many such memories we're able to recall. Maybe even from right from childhood till date, what went wrong, everything we are able to remember. Now this has a connection with impulse control, like we will see ahead. First, we have to understand how this is connected to what is called addictive memory. Here, very important is the name of Miller, and we should try to remember the year also 2010. He has given a concept of addictive memory. From the name only, if we see addictive memory, he's going to talk about addictions over here. This definition also we should try to remember as it is. Okay, these are memories for past experiences relating to problem behavior in people. Just now we saw when I'm happy, I remember happy things, and when I'm sad, I remember sad things. Now we are making this specific to impulse control issues. So what Miller is saying is, when I do some impulsive behavior right now, or I feel like doing some impulsive behavior right now, means I'm in that impulsive situation, it brings back all the memories of when I was impulsive in the past. So just like happiness brings back happy memories, impulsiveness right now brings back all the impulsive memories. So say I'm sitting at the casino and my friends are telling me, okay, place a bet. When they say that place a bet, it's like a trigger which brings back all the memories in the past when I have placed bets. So addictive memory is same as state dependent memory, only we are applying it to the specific scenario of impulse control issues. And this they are saying are applicable to all impulse control issues, whether it is pyromania, fire setting, kleptomania, stealing, or gambling disorder, gambling. So if we take from a kleptomaniac's point of view, the moment he goes to the store and he sees that object which he likes to pick up every time, so he sees a cap, supposing, which he always picks up. The moment he sees that cap and he starts feeling impulsive, his mental state has become impulsive. All the times that he's acted impulsively, all those memories come back to him. Now we've already seen whenever we act impulsively, it's a negative reinforcement. We feel relieved. So in the past, whenever he's picked up caps, he's got a nice feeling of relief. That means all those memories, in this sense, it's going to be positive. He's going to remember all the times he felt relieved. And that will encourage him to pick up the cap again. Excuse me. Okay, so today I cannot complete this definition. Next time I will revise it and we'll go ahead. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, Alicia, I wanted to ask you about your test. Others, if you all want to leave, you all can leave. Alicia, you can hear me? Okay, what was asked on your test? Okay, okay, just, yeah, your marks were good. Like I also just wanted to know more about the paper. So, okay, when, okay, and has she announced any other test? Okay, in case you're giving, just let me know. Okay. Sia, you have raised your hand. Means which you want for your resitting, right? Your Whenever you're free, you can just WhatsApp me and check with me the timing. Actually, every day my schedule is little different. So if you can just tell me when you'd like to attend, I'll get back to you. Anyone? Okay, yeah, sure. Anyone wants